Hey everybody, welcome to another MerlinCast. Got a good friend here, Justin.
Long time. Nice to see everybody.
Hey guys might remember from back in the day. So we are going to go through a couple of news things, and then we're going to dive deep into some movie stuff, I guess. But
awesome.
I got great Screen Rant up here. Tell me, is there anything you see you think's worth talking about, Justin?
So Haley Atwell may be filming Avengers 4. Well, I mean, I guess the good news is they're trying to keep her alive and well in the MCU, even though her character is basically done. I mean, I really liked the Agent Carter show, so I'm really disappointed that we never got a season 3, but I also know the ratings were crap.
Well, I contributed to that because I didn't watch it.
Joe, what you doing to me, man?
I know I didn't. But honestly, I thought she was a good character, but they did kind of wrap her up.
They did. I mean, I'm not sure what's left unless they're going to do time travel, which would not be the weirdest thing that has happened in the MCU. But
well, you like her. Do you think that there's enough there worth exploring for more movie inclusions?
I mean, here's the thing. Every time we keep jumping into the Avengers mythology, the MCU, the alleged timeline that Kevin Feige has desperately tried to say, oh wait, no, there is a timeline. Never mind the giant plot hole less than 5 minutes into Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah, that whole thing did
8 years later, that doesn't make sense. I digress. I mean, here's the thing. They always jump back to the past, so I mean, Ant-Man's took place in the 80s. We obviously got her back for a flashback in hallucination in Age of Ultron. So
yeah.
I mean, it's comics. There's always a way.
Definitely.
But I mean, I guess it depends on how they're going to go about it. I mean, I guess the bigger question is what's going to happen after Infinity War. What's sort of the end game of Phase 3? Which,
well, you know what? That's a good point. I know we've talked about this off and on. What do you think the next step is? Because personally, I mean, as far as the history of Marvel Comics goes, that's about as big as it gets. I feel like they'd have to backtrack and probably go for some more human stories to make it work. What do you think?
Personally, I think also given the fact that Zoe Saldana has sort of implied that even though they have claimed that Infinity War is not going to be a two-parter, it's still basically a two-parter. So we're going to have Thanos introduced. We're going to see the Avengers have a tougher time. Somebody's probably going to get killed off. It'll probably be Vision, and no one will care.
I like Vision.
But no one will care.
No one will care. I mean, he's cool, but you're right. There's not enough of him. Wait, I must have missed something. She's saying it's not going to be a two-parter? Isn't it going?
No.
It is two-parter.
So they've been trying to keep the fourth Avengers movie, the title of it, under wraps.
Okay.
And in an interview, Zoe Saldana said, "Oh, we're working on Infinity Gauntlet now," and we're still not entirely sure if she meant Infinity War, but I'm...
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Wow. They can't lean on Thanos for another movie. That would just get old, I think.
I think it depends on how they do it. I know they said that with Infinity War, they're closing a lot of the central arcs they've had. Mm-hmm. But the problem is right now, since Disney acquired Marvel, they just haven't had the same stakes. Like, you compare Age of Ultron to the first Avengers movie where we killed off Coulson, we got the group together, they didn't play well, and Age of Ultron where the only real character that dies that's of any significance is the new character that they just introduced and we're supposed to be concerned about. Because he likes his sister, arguably a little too much if you've read the comics, but...
Yeah, that's definitely true. I can understand why Disney did not want to pursue that route.
And I don't blame them. But at the same time, the biggest problem with the MCU as it stands is they're not going where they need to go. Every time they try and get closer, they seem to take one step forward and 2 steps back. Civil War was a darker story, but it had a body count of 2. And the 2 that died... no one cared about. I'm sorry, Black Panther, but...
Well, I guess they got to split the difference between trying to keep the characters marketable and actually killing them off.
Yeah.
But you're right. They could probably afford to lose an Avenger or 2, and they'll still probably be okay.
Like, I'm not saying we have to lose, the big money makers, but we've got to see some stakes. We've got to actually feel the tension for a change.
Yeah.
We've got to pull something left field, and obviously Robert Downey Jr. is asking for more and more money, so...
He's probably half the budget of some of them.
I was going to say.
I looked up some of his payments for these movies, and they're kind of...
It's steep. It's really steep.
I've seen massive amounts. I'm like, their entire movie's just made for that. Yes. That's crazy. But hey, people like him. But yeah, basically, Haley Atwell will be in Avengers 4.
I mean, she's been pretty consistent for cameos thus far, so, I mean, keep her around, I guess. If there's something to say, there's something to say, but if not...
We'll see.
Personally, I would just rather they actually start playing with the Netflix series and figure out how we can actually tie them in some way, shape, or form. I know the Russos have been sort of pushing them off to the side. Like, we acknowledge them, but we also realize they're TVMA, so we can't really do anything with them.
Keep that in mind. I do want to talk more about those. We'll run through these a little bit more. You don't watch Gotham, do you?
I do not watch Gotham, unfortunately.
Okay, good, because it's garbage. Can the Arrowverse introduce a new Batman? Other than the Green Arrow, who is Batman they have already?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, Supergirl introduced a new Superman, so, I mean, I guess why not? Even if it's not really going to work.
Kind of Superman, he's sort of there. You know?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I will take anyone over Ben Affleck, who just seems to get worse and worse the more I watch him. So,
well, Ben Affleck's Batman, though. Or Batfleck. Well, wait, he's not even going to be in the movies anymore, is he?
No. He's in Justice League, so I mean...
Well, he's in Justice League, but this whole other movie they've been doing with him, it's getting worse. Like, didn't he back out of it completely now or something? He used to want to direct
No, he's still in it. He was supposed to write and direct it. He did write a script.
Okay.
No one knows what his script was. But he brought on Matt Reeves, who I believe did Cloverfield. Don't quote me on that.
I won't.
But brought on Matt Reeves, and Reeves rejected his script, brought in a new script. Ben Affleck is still the core Batman, but apparently it has nothing to do with the DCEU. It's just meant to be a standalone story.
I heard that as a standalone story, yeah.
I mean, I don't honestly know, and I suspect just because it's Warner Brothers and they're trying to think of something that's going to rival the MCU, they're probably going to make it still a franchise, sort of what MGM did with Skyfall. It's supposed to be a standalone story, except not really anymore.
Skyfall was supposed to be standalone?
Skyfall was originally supposed to be a standalone story, which is why when you think about it in relation to Spectre, it gets about 8,000 times worse. But
James Bond
off the rails.
It's off the rails. Daredevil has hot toys, mind you.
Ooh, because he's a devil.
It perfectly captures Charlie Cox's angry face, which is his internal face constantly.
Yes. Good to know.
This is an article I don't care about, so we're going to skip it. Literally, this is the stuff that bothers me, guys. Why Avengers Tower doesn't appear in the Marvel TV shows? Maybe because they didn't decide to shoot it. You know,
I was going to say, and I mean, it's taking place in Hell's Kitchen. I'm not sure where in New York is the Avengers Tower. So I mean, it's not the most unseemly idea out there. Also, one of the things I've been noticing with the Netflix shows is they kind of have mixed results in terms of how they handle their budget. Like Defenders was supposed to be much more epic, and when they start playing with bigger effects like the opening earthquake of the debut episode, it really starts to show the difference between feature length film and what Netflix is working with.
No,
I like what they're doing, and I think in some ways they hide it relatively well. Like Luke Cage, I think hit it well, and probably early season 1 of Daredevil for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Fist, we need not speak of.
What's Iron Fist?
Truer words were in fact never spoken.
It just makes me want to throw up.
One thing I got to give the Netflix series credit for, though, is they've done such a significantly better job of handling the MCU continuity than the actual MCU. Like, they've kept in these really subtle references so that you can tell this is what they're referring to. This is why it's pivotal to the specific event, but they're not throwing in 8,000 Easter eggs like the MCU is.
Yeah, no, you're right. They're definitely cool to have, but I think the cool thing about the Netflix shows in general is that they could almost be independent of the movies.
And for the most part, they are, but I kind of wish that wasn't the case because I think they're better written, and with the exception of Iron Fist. But
no, you're definitely right. I mean, I will say it here. I prefer most of the Netflix shows over anything that the movies have done lately in terms of writing, definitely. But I don't know. Why do you think they need to be integrated more? Because they are on such a lower scale anyway.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: with some of these stories, like Civil War was a much bigger event. Mm-hmm. We need to see how the rest of the world is handling this. Like Spider-Man: Homecoming was definitely a step in the right direction. I think that would have been a great sort of springboard to mention, like, oh, hey, here's these other heroes that are in New York trying to do things as well from the ground level. Like they could have easily inserted like a Luke Cage reference or a Jessica Jones reference, or
definitely.
If we have to be so subtle as the Netflix as the Netflix franchise does with calling the Battle of New York the accident.
Yeah, why don't you just say that aliens invaded, guys? They were.
Or just call it the Battle of New York.
Chitani, whatever. Yeah, they're pretending. I guess maybe there were some early continuity issues early on. They were afraid, how close are we going to make it? Yeah. They're still working it in. No, I definitely see what you're saying. I think that you're right. I think if you're going to have a springboard for the street-level heroes, because you have the Marvel Knights, Spider-Man's the way to go.
Yeah.
But once again, you've got Spider-Man, which is mostly upbeat, kid-friendly. That's what they want to market as. And then the dark, gritty Netflix.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to expose a 12-year-old to Daredevil Season 1, but...
Unless you're me, I guess. I would have watched it at 12, probably. But you're right. Probably not the most...
There's a time and a place, is my point.
Definitely. This is all like comic book stuff. Gotham has Solomon Grundy, which is cool.
Great, I guess. I mean, yeah. DCAU for the win, but more Harvey Weinstein stuff, which...
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it just gets more horrible the more you read about it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff like that popping up recently with entertainment. It just seems last couple of years. It's unfortunate. I really don't like that.
This should not be a thing.
No, it's not. But okay, we'll move on. Keep it light, I guess.
Yeah, more or less.
Sony's Venom. Scott Hayes. Scott Hayes. You know him?
It doesn't ring a bell, unfortunately.
Well, moving on then.
Psych, which I never watched.
CW, DC Comics, Psych.
Kevin Feige, whether Marvel will make a female Thor movie.
Not if they want to make everyone angry right now, because everybody loves him so much. I mean, the hype around Ragnarok, people talk about it constantly. I think they got at least one more movie in for him. Probably. Yeah,
I mean, I assume he's definitely one of the core money makers. Jeremy Renner, you could take or leave, which I think would be far better. Don't get me wrong, love that.
He's got that family, though.
Love that he had a family, but that would have been a great sort of like, you can't have nice things for Civil War, but no, we couldn't do Civil War.
Talked about home, remember? Old War reference. We learned about backstory, connections.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I still think he's doomed, but...
No, I mean, if he's perfect, we like him, but he's useless. Let's get rid of him.
Yes.
And then everyone can tackle the bad guy. You got your motivation.
Yep, and we still have the weird relationship between Hulk and Black Widow for whatever reason.
Another non-article, I think.
Yeah. Josh Brolin is okay with fans hating him after Infinity War. I mean,
why?
You're never going to be Tom Felton, but...
Man, the hate is real, man. We like
or Joffrey, for that matter.
There is just too much. Okay, now we're just getting... This is all... It's amazing. This is mostly all comic book stuff anyway.
I'm amazed at just how little we can find here.
Well, that's fine. No, I mean, on the first page, I always click off. But yeah, mostly just comic book related stuff.
The Punisher's new release date won't hurt Justice League. TV show versus blockbuster movie.
Netflix... Yeah, of course not.
Yes. Yes. No, I don't know.
This is the stuff that gets me. Do we really have nothing else to talk about? I know we got to keep things updated, but this is literally not news.
No.
That always makes
two entirely different channels.
Nah, man. But hey, we'll move into some stuff I know we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Let's see how we're doing on time here. Plenty of time.
Oh, very good.
Okay. Well, let's do some, I guess, basic trailer discussion.
Sure.
First one, I actually watched it today. I saw the second Black Panther trailer. What'd you think about it?
So, I've been waiting for a Black Panther movie for a really long time.
Cool.
When I first saw the character, I wasn't sure what to think, how it was going to work out, and then just sort of was like, okay, this is getting really interesting. This is a really cool mythos. And I thought it was one of the better parts of Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And when they mentioned, okay, we're going to give him his own movie, I was like, right on. Maybe this is going to be the tonal change that Phase 3 actually and desperately needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first promo artwork comes out, and it looks like hideous Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm hoping this is going to work out. Maybe, I mean, we've seen enough bad trailers that have led to great movies, so, I mean...
But it's Marvel, though, Justin.
It is Marvel, but also it's fluffy Marvel because of Disney. But...
A little bit.
First trailer comes out, not really on board, not really feeling it. It looks cool, but so does a lot of different movies.
True.
So, a little time passes, we get to the second trailer, and they're starting to tie in more of what's exactly going on, who are some of the characters. I really like Ryan Coogler. I think he did a really great job with Creed. I think Michael B. Jordan is a great actor. I think most of the cast is really solid.
Definitely.
I'm sad that Jaimin Hansu, who played Black Panther in the BET animated series, did not get any callbacks for this. They They better get the theme song in there because the theme song was just infuriatingly catchy.
Oh, that's right. He did voice them.
Yeah.
Digimon Hansu, as I sometimes call him. No, that guy is really cool, and he's only in, Fast and Furious movies now as a stock villain.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, whenever we need, like, a B character, he's usually the guy to call, but this would have been, like, an ace's role for him as, like, an elder or something. Obviously, way too old to play the role now, but...
I don't want to get too up top with that, but I do want to ask you, I know we both really like him. He's a good actor. Did he just peak too early? What happened with him? Did he just not...
I think it was one of those factors of... Did a really good job playing these roles that nobody really cared about. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, he was Russell Crowe's sidekick in Gladiator, but if anybody can actually remember his name...
Yeah,
you tell me.
Good point. Good point.
Like, great character, and obviously Amistad did a great job as well.
Yeah.
And then I think just sort of because you never really got any traction, sort of fell off to the wayside, came back in these sort of bit parts for whatever reason, probably just to make money, and now sort of kind of in the same position as he was before.
No.
I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hoping eventually he gets the recognition he deserves. And I'm very sad that he's not in this, but
yeah, definitely.
But I mean, still a great cast. I think the visuals are looking better. I'm very curious to see if it's actually going to be as long as they're proclaiming it's going to be.
How long?
They're predicting it's going to be anywhere between 2.5 to 3 hours.
Oh,
which
man,
could be awesome or could be overkill.
They're really pushing it with that.
I mean, if it's worth it, it'll be awesome. But if not, I mean, I don't want to see it get blown up in the process because I think we do have to switch up the roster. We need more of the lesser known characters, but we need more justification for why they're there and why they're so important.
Ant-Man.
I'd like to say Ant-Man. I think the other big thing the MCU needs is it needs to understand that not every character has to be front and center all the time.
Yeah, true.
Spider-Man was great in his 20 minutes in Civil War. Mm-hmm. Ant-Man completely dominated Civil War.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone loves him in that.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's true. He did far more exciting and awesome things in the brief airport battle scene in Civil War than he ever did in Ant-Man.
You're right.
And how it should have ended was absolutely right in terms of the entire movie could have been done without Ant-Man.
No, you're right. Even if you go by the comics, the way the Avengers works, as you know, is you always have your main characters, and then you've got the people doing cool things in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, Hawkeye's a good example.
Yeah.
He's there, gets a few cool lines, a few cool moments, but that's all we really need.
Yeah, I mean, not every hero needs his own movie, but I think, or her own movie, not sexist.
I got you.
Yeah, just cover my bases. But, and along that same line, we desperately need a female superhero movie, and I don't understand why Captain Marvel is being set in the 90s. But
you know what? I'll take it in the 90s, if not at all. We got to have it in the
yeah, I mean, better something than nothing, but...
You're right. That is the first one for Marvel, isn't it?
It is.
DC beat them at something.
I mean, I'm still not understanding why the MCU has said, hey, we're totally cool with a Black Widow movie. Then why don't you make it?
Because they're not that confident in her.
It's like, there are people asking for this. We'd liked her in The Winter Soldier. We liked her in Civil War. Clearly, there is a market for this.
No, Scarlett Johansson's really popular. She's a really good actress. I think if you'd have to go for a more subdued spy route, but that's fine.
Now, I was going to say, I know before Disney took over, they were talking about doing a Nick Fury standoff. So, I mean...
People would see that. I'd see that.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, the only thing you have to beat is a really bad David Hasselhoff movie. So, I mean, absolutely bring on Nick Fury. And he's a great character. I personally wish it wasn't one gigantic Samuel L. Jackson impersonation, but...
Well, he's very good at impersonating himself.
Yes, and comic book nerds smite me, but yes, I understand that they took Samuel L. Jackson's likeness, he gave them his permission, but at the same time, try and do something different besides angry Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
You've played that in at least 5 different flavors now. Bring something new to the table.
It's a valid point, I guess. But you're right. I mean, these are things that they might not bring in as much money, but at least it would give us something different to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And I mean, I feel like we kind of need that edginess. I think some of them are playing with it, but they're never committing entirely to it. I'm
safe.
Not sure where the road is going or how we're going to get there, but Phase 3 I was kind of hoping... Like, Phase 2 I thought was, okay, we need something different from Phase 1. Mm-hmm. I can kind of forgive that. Phase 3... We're trying to get to Thanos, so the stakes got to get raised. Things got to happen. Obviously, there was a big fallout between the Avengers with Civil War, but we need bigger consequences. We need to actually feel like, hey, not everyone's going to make it out this time.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope there's a lot of deaths in this one. Really, shake things up.
Here's hoping. And maybe Black Panther is going to push us in that direction, or at least get audiences more open to characters they are less familiar with. You could also argue Guardians of the Galaxy did a good job with that.
Definitely.
And, I mean, it's hard to say what exactly led to Guardians' success, but I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. Representation, I think, is probably the big takeaway from that.
Big hook.
Yeah, but I think great cast, really solid director. I'm just hoping they can live up to what they're trying to accomplish, so we can get more of this instead of one step forward, two steps back.
No, I mean, I'll be the first to say it, man. I am not that versed in Black Panther. He's not like one of my favorite characters or anything. I have some good knowledge of him, generally speaking, mostly from expanded stuff. But I think the thing that's really cool about it is that, you know, it kind of continues this formula that Marvel's been really good with, is taking characters that are lesser known, need to be popularized. And look, just from the trailer alone, the visuals, we saw him in Civil War. You know, I think that his performance was quite good.
Oh, yeah.
Adding a lot to this character. I think just the intensity looks like it's going to be fun. Keep the balance.
Yeah, for the most part.
You know, maybe up the violence a little bit.
Maybe a smidge. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm hoping we can continue with Spider-Man Homecoming in terms of getting away from very bad because evil villains.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I really, really liked about Spider-Man was, hey, maybe not.
He's got a legitimate reason to be angry.
He's not just bad because evil. It's like, and he couldn't just be Loki, thank you. And that was the Vulture, so, you know, I was really happy about that. But
except not really.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, he's kind of a nice guy. But, you know,
also kind of, sort of, not really.
Kind of, sort of, really, I don't know. Michael Keaton made it work somehow, but, you know.
Yeah, if it was anyone besides him, I feel like it would have been a mess. But
no, but he gave it his all, definitely.
He did.
But yeah, that's Black Panther. We could talk a bit about Punisher. I mean, I'm always down for Punisher. I mean, he basically took over Daredevil, right?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest issue was Season 2, and I told you about this when I got done with it after who knows how long it took. But the hardest thing to stomach with Season 2 of Daredevil was we had all these new characters, and they were all really interesting characters. But Daredevil was by far the least interesting character of Season 2.
No.
Like, I really liked Elektra. I feel like I'm one of the few who actually did. But
no, she's cool.
Definitely a step up from Jennifer Gardner.
Several steps. Dude, come on. Don't. Well, okay, first of all, no offense to Miss Gardner. But no, seriously. I'm just going to say it right now. I've said it before, but biggest problem with that movie, amongst all the problems, worst casting. Come on, like
questionable. I'll give you that.
Questionable. But you're right.
I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, Joe. Come on.
Okay.
When Jon Favreau is your best casting decision.
Well, in any case, no, it was what it was.
It was
15 years ago. Yeah. But no, man, seriously.
But no, I think
good for what happened for that one.
But yeah, no, I think Jon Bernthal did a great job. I think he's going to continue doing a good job. I feel like the Punisher, just in terms of overall representation, has walked a very steady line between. Is it okay?
Oh yeah, it's just a monitor going on.
Okay, so it's still going. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, it's still going. It's just this happens when I don't move the mouse.
Oh no, that's fine.
So we're good.
It walks this really steady line between, is it entertaining or is it way too dark? And I'm really not sure where you draw the line, or more importantly, how you draw the line. But I think so long as they've got the storyline for it, so long as they keep it engaging and they keep the same similar element that they've had with the prior Netflix series, again excluding Iron Fist for obvious reasons. But
no,
I think it can work.
That's an interesting question, actually, because that's kind of a problem I think Punisher's had, is that he's one of those characters that I think people like the idea of him, but how many fans really sit down and read the comics and see the gritty, dark, dismal stuff where he just kills all his bad guys?
Yeah.
There's only so much you can really do with that type of story. I think that there's definitely some faith to be had with this one. I mean, as far as reception goes, people were loving Punisher. I heard nothing but positive.
Oh yeah, no,
people are down for it.
Definitely looks the part. Definitely looks interesting, and I mean, I'm definitely going to be on board with it regardless, just because I think 3 out of 5 for the Netflix series is still a pretty good track record. So,
what's the other one you didn't like?
I'd say if I had to grade them, it'd be like A- season 1 Daredevil, B- season 2, B- Jessica Jones, A for Luke Cage.
Defenders was
probably like D for Iron Fist, Defenders, I thought started really well and then sort of
lost steam
as it went along. Like,
oh man,
the more they tried to make it more of a blockbuster, it kind of went off the deep end. But the one thing I got to give Defenders credit for was it kept me wanting to come back and keep watching. Like,
the characters are good.
Yeah, like I got through Luke Cage in like 3 days. I got through the Defenders in like 2 because I was actually legitimately on board to figure out, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? I think when it's working in that regard, instead of who is Danny Rand, I'm actually kind of curious.
But did you think that he worked better in Defenders, at least, even though he was still kind of,
man-child? Appropriate terminology.
Correct. He was not a female dog. But yes, go on.
I like the fact that he was much more constrained this time. And, I mean, personally, what I would have done is, instead of giving him his own show, which was a stupid decision, since he's already notorious in the comics for working alongside Luke Cage, just bring him up in the Luke Cage storyline.
Buddy, partner.
Exactly.
Let's do it.
And we can still have that sort of like naivete, but Luke at least reprimanding him half the time, saying, hey, glowy hand, this ain't going to work.
No, I mean, there were some people that were still diehard about Iron Fist and are fans of his, but based upon my experience, I always thought he worked better with Luke. Keep him with Luke.
I mean, the biggest problem with Iron Fist was it just didn't have an angle. Like, Daredevil, you had disabilities as well as a really interesting discussion of what is justice. Jessica Jones, at least part of the time, the biggest problem with Jessica Jones was it was incredibly inconsistent. I don't understand it. It's all of its accolades, but you had PTSD, you had possibly a metaphor for rape culture, you had a lot of interesting things to be played with.
Definitely.
Luke Cage was essentially an entire deconstruction of the blaxploitation genre as well as a superhero in the Black Lives Matter era. Iron Fist,
Kung Fu.
White guy does Kung Fu, I guess.
I mean, to be fair, it is a genre that's definitely been done before.
Yeah, and I mean, possibly you could have gone the Luke Cage route with like, okay, let's deconstruct the Kung Fu genre. Let's actually go beyond stereotypes instead of driving face first into them. Cough, cough, white savior, cough, cough. Even though you're mentioning that the white savior is a problem, does not mean that you're necessarily getting away from the problem.
I will be honest, that there was definitely an issue, but that was the least of that show's problems. That was
aside from the appalling representation of martial arts as a whole.
Well, the choreography wasn't really that impressive.
The choreography was hideous.
I mean, I'm still sorry. I don't think anything's going to top that hallway scene in Daredevil for me. I mean, that was just great cinematography at the very least.
According to full agreement, and I think the only thing that has even come remotely close is the boardroom scene in Defenders.
And even that, for as hyped up as it was, I didn't think it was quite as good.
No, it wasn't. And I mean, I feel like the third one that probably would have come close would have been the final battle from Luke Cage if it wasn't for the final villain's horrible armor, which was just worst costume ever.
They really kept that balance for camp and spoofing and keeping it serious at the same time, but that last-minute villain costume was a little too much.
Yeah. Where we'll play devil's advocate there, though, is I do like the fact that they brought back Hammer Industries.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we'll get to see Justin Hammer again.
I want the return of Sam Rockwell, man. I don't think it's too much to ask.
Well, everyone will love Sam Rockwell. But, definitely think that there's some stuff to be explored there with Punisher.
Yeah.
I've talked about this. I feel like every time, there's got to be a lot of Star Wars discussion. I've talked about it with everybody on these things so far, but why not, Justin? You saw Last Jedi trailer. Tell me your thoughts about it. Because I don't know if you've got issues with the new Star Wars movies, but that's neither here nor there. What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, I'll say this much. I'm definitely more excited for this than I am Solo, which is just... I feel like the more they talk about Solo, the more I'm driven away from it.
Your interest just goes down.
Yeah, like, I get it. You've got Ron Howard. You've got an awesome cast, with the exception of the guy actually playing Han Solo, which is morally questionable.
Stop the prequels. Please, just stop.
Yeah,
stop it.
No, I mean... I'm kind of a partial apologist for Rogue One, but...
Someone has to be.
Solo just should not have happened. Like, the idea for Rogue One was awesome. Let's actually figure out why they knew this much. Here's why there was this giant freaking flaw in the Death Star.
Yeah.
Was it the best way to go about it? No, but
it looked cool, I guess.
Yeah,
Darth Vader was cool.
Like I said when we reviewed it, Star Wars for the first time ever actually felt like a war movie. Which you got to give credit where credit's rightfully due.
No. I'll say it again, man. Like I didn't hate it, but when you're talking about Star Wars, I don't want to just be okay.
This is true. So with Last Jedi, here's where I got to give him props. Okay. So Abrams played it way too safe. I mean, yes, we get it. You killed off a beloved character for shock value, but really, were you that edgy? You brought up a bunch of new plot points that were just meant to be. That was essentially one gigantic metaphor for, hey, it's a reboot, but it's going to be okay. And once again, the magic box. Can you please get over your MacGuffins, Abrams? And yet again, Abrams cannot write a third act.
Yeah, you've been harping him by that for years.
I mean, he can't. Like, The Force Awakens pretty much plays out like story. Oh crap! I have to end this. Okay, here's Act 3. So how can we wrap this up? So sort of, but not really main character, except not really, is captured. How is that going to tie into major space battle? Followed by character who's top billed should not be top billed.
All right. How about here's a theory, Justin. Here's another way to look at this whole not being able to write a third act thing. Maybe this is best for Abrams because think of it this way.
Go on.
It's all 3 movies. It's one big story, Lord of the Rings style. So maybe it's yet to come. The ending is yet to come.
But remember, he's also writing Act 3 of new trilogy. So let's see how far this goes off the rails.
Well, look. So everyone's got the weakness, I guess.
Yeah. So enter Rian Johnson, who I'd say for the most part has a pretty solid track record. Brick I really love. Looper I thought was really good. And I think for the most part, you can definitely tell that The Last Jedi is jumping deeper into the mythology, much richer characters, much more going on. Poe Dameron doesn't actually feel like he wasn't shoehorned in at the last second, which
he was.
Well, it's weird because he was, and then apparently, based on all the production notes that have been mentioned over the time since The Force Awakens came out. Was, Poe was supposed to be basically like a celebrity cameo, and then we really liked him, and we tried to find a way to tie him back into the story.
You know what? I have heard that. Oscar Isaac did a good job. People like him. We want the character to do more, but that's fine. But the way it was handled in the film, make him seem like he matters more than just a guy that's.
I'm a really good pilot.
Well, show me more of that. I want more of that focus on the story to be on him. We need the badass fighter pilot character. It's obligatory. Yeah. I still want Wedge. I want a Wedge reference somewhere. Where is Wedge? But anyway,
we can get there eventually. I mean, I know there's a lot of people really worried about this is just going to be basically
Empire
with the substitution of verbs. Based on everything that we've seen trailer-wise, I don't think so. Porgs are adorable. Porgs will probably end up stealing the show.
You know what? After the whole BB-8 hate thing, I'll just let it go.
I'm cautiously optimistic for Porgs.
No, I'm going to go ahead and say it's cute now. I'm not going to hate on anything. It's fine. You got to have your cute. But this is the weird thing about it for the marketing. Why did we need another cute character besides an action figure? Why more BB-8? He was great.
Well, now we're getting BB-8's evil twin. So I mean, I feel like it's going to be the showdown for the ages.
Cuteness for cute's sake, too much?
I mean, it depends. According to Rian Johnson, the Porgs are actually important to the storyline, so
that would be great.
I'm not sure how he's going to go about that because they aren't exactly Ewoks, but
wow, I never thought I'd hear a statement like that before. Oh, they're not quite the Ewoks.
Okay,
they've come a long way. They've come a long way from being most hated. That's for sure. Long way.
I was going to say, compared to Gungans and all the other horrible.
I know.
Or life choices that Star Wars has made over the years.
No, I'm just saying the spectrum, man. It's come a long way.
But also, Ewoks A took down Han Solo. B fought off stormtroopers. So I mean,
cannibals.
They're not cannibals. They are carnivores. Let's be realistic.
Okay, they're carnivores. They were going to eat our main characters, but they're so cute, so we'll give them a pass.
Yes, they were actually competent,
and they defeated stormtroopers because of their amazing power to get through the script. Just channel it.
Literal plot armor and plot guns, for that matter.
And I think in universe, they only had one casualty in the movie.
I think so, actually.
That's pretty good.
It's been a long time since I've seen Return of the Jedi.
Well, I
was like 10.
Trying to make it a little bit dark. Really?
Yeah, no, it's been ages.
That's like my favorite. You got to watch that again. No,
not opposed.
No, man,
absolutely not opposed.
Try to find the original cut if you can find one.
Yeah, I was going to say that's part of the problem, Joe. It's not a matter that I don't want to. It's a matter of I don't want to watch 130 minutes of CGI shoehorned in just because time. Yeah.
Lucas effect.
Yeah, not cool. But
yeah.
Someday. But honestly, I think it's looking much more interesting. I think there's going to be a lot more going on. I think this is really the golden opportunity for the new reboot trilogy to sort of establish its identity. So I'm curious to see how exactly that'll play out. I still don't like Adam Driver as Kylo Ren.
I was waiting for it. Like, Kylo Ren still sucks. Stand by it. I don't like him.
Here's the problem with Kylo. So
tell me.
For the first 2/3 of Force Awakens, he's wearing the whole getup. He's wearing the helmet. He looks menacing.
True.
And then there's the one moment at the very, very end of Act 2 where he takes off the helmet, and all that fear, all that menace, all that intimidation out the window like nothing.
Credibility gone.
Yes.
I agree. I mean, I like Adam Driver, but intimidating,
No. And, I mean, maybe it'll get better because I think they're going to go redemption arc with him, whether or not that takes place in this movie or the next movie.
So predictable, though.
It is ridiculously predictable. If they are just going to straight up rip off the original trilogy, it's probably going to be more 9 than 8, and probably end up killing off Leia just because they can.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense to do, but
yeah,
might as well, I guess. But no, you're right. I think that sounds fair. I'm just hoping that they'll try something new. Maybe throw a curve or two in there.
Yeah, I mean, right now it doesn't look like they're ripping off Empire too awful much. Yes, ATs are in there, but they're not on Hoth. So I mean, props.
So it's totally different.
Definitely different.
And great props.
All
right. Well, that's a lot of Star Wars. Okay. I think let's try to keep this down to some actual movie reviews.
Okay.
I don't think I talked about Kingsman too much on the channel. So, as you know, I think we both really liked the first Kingsman.
We did.
A lot. And I got to see it. Just to give you the short version, I did not think it was as good as the first movie.
Okay.
But
agreed.
I thought it was kind of in the same spirit. A lot of fun camp, a lot of action. I thought they actually explored more with the characters. Trailers failed us again, ruining a massive plot point. How to Train a Dragon 2, whatever.
Yeah, big spoiler, but
not the movie's fault.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I kind of liked Julianne Moore's themed villain. I don't think as good as Sam Jackson, but
it's a step in the right direction. But we'll come back to that.
But yeah, my general feeling about it, just to sum it up, is I thought it was staying in line with the spirit of the first one. Still thought it was enjoyable for what it was, good popcorn entertainment, but not quite as good as the first. But I think you had stronger feelings about it.
Oh boy, where to begin with this one? So, pretty much when I walked into this one, it was a last-second decision, but I remember really liking the first movie, so maybe I was going to be a little bit more lenient than the critics were regarding Kingsman 2.
Okay.
So, I walk in, the movie's already started, but I haven't missed too awful much. And I'm already getting that, like, oh yeah, there's a high-octane action sequence here. We're having a good time. It feels like the same old Kingsman. And then I start remembering, well, yeah, the first Kingsman was awesome, but let's not forget, they pushed back the first Kingsman like 4 times because they had to do reshoots on top of reshoots on top of reshoots.
Okay.
And I think they paid off, led to a better movie.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking, this is probably, if this was what the original Kingsman movie was, we probably got some issues. And part of it is, so there's a bunch of different issues here. One of the big call-outs that critics have made is Kingsman 2 is sexist. I don't entirely agree with that.
I didn't really pick up on that, but
I think part of the problem is, first of all, they reduce every female character to support, and the one character that sort of has an open opportunity to actually be strong and powerful female character doesn't really get to do anything until Act 3. So
his love interest did kind of not really give him a lot of openings to deal with their problems, made some assumptions. Yeah, not the best writing for her, true.
And probably the big thing that sort of killed all the sort of sense of fun and excitement that I got from the first movie, they killed off his sidekick. Not okay movie. Not okay at all.
That is true. They went pretty dark. They did.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, throughout the first Kingsman movie, there are some really heavy and dark things that happened in the first one. Mm-hmm. But there was always that sort of, like, morbid humor from it. Mm-hmm. There was always this sort of, like, sense of, like, okay, this is just popcorn entertainment. This is a good time. Mm-hmm. We're still chuckling about it. This one was just unpleasant.
Really?
Like, I'm going to say, like, the first hour, I was like, okay, there's some more tension than the first one. That's all right. And then it just got mean. It got really mean. I thought the statesmen were obnoxious.
I didn't really like them that much.
It's like, I'm sorry?
Tatum. Glorified cameo.
Glorified cameo, but then they try to bring him back, except not really. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't think giving him more screen time would have changed it. I just think the statesman was a stupid idea. It's like, okay, we wanna bring the Kingsman to America. Fine.
You don't want secret cowboys.
But we don't need secret cowboys.
Oh.
We absolutely do not need secret cowboys.
I didn't really care either way.
Yeah, and they just don't work the same way. And I think if they were going to go that route, you could at least try and handle some sort of means of political satire in terms of, like, obnoxiousness, think they're better than everyone else.
They're cowboys.
But it doesn't really work. It really doesn't. And it just gets worse and worse the more time we spend with them.
Interesting.
And one of the things that I really liked about the first Kingsman was, even though I thought the core villain was really, really lame, I at least got Valentine's motive. Mm-hmm. Poppy's is so ridiculously harebrained and makes no sense whatsoever that it just gets worse and worse the more you think about it. Like, her character overall, like, her overall demeanor, she's much more menacing than Valentine, which I'll give her that.
Yeah.
But her motive is horrible. Like, just idiotic.
Well, I mean, I guess if they're trying to keep it silly and light, does she have to have the motivation that makes the most sense? I mean, hey, I'm going to be a big drug kingpin, so my solution, make drugs legal, bully the world into doing that. I mean, it's comic book supervillain. It's not the best thing I've ever heard.
I mean, I'll take that over giant laser in space ad nauseum, but
it's pretty generic. Yeah.
But I mean, it was just like it just got worse and worse and even more mean-spirited as it went along. Runs on entirely too long, and tries to wrap everything up with a sort of, like, closure if we don't get a third Kingsman, which I'd say at this point is a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it will break even, but I started out really liking it, and then just it got worse and worse and worse the further down the line we went. Enjoyed the fact that we finally got Colin Firth back, but hashtag justice for Roxy. Not okay. I think.
Okay.
I mean, I also know that they're talking about possibly doing a Statesman movie.
Oh,
please no! Please no!
That's getting a little too bold.
Channing Tatum will not save it. I'm sorry. Let the Statesman go.
Well, they were thinking about, I think, possibly going to other countries and doing similar things. Could open all kinds of stereotypes, I bet.
Yeah, I mean. I think they were trying to play off the, like, oh yes, Kingsmen are also stereotypical. Aren't they though?
British men are all classy.
And is that really a stereotype?
I mean, I think they're going more for the James Bond angle rather than the whole nation.
But. Yeah, no, and I just didn't get it, and I thought the fact that, like, okay, we got away from that just so we could play off the, well, there's a U.S. audience that's arguably just as important, so let's pander to them. It just doesn't work.
But people were going into that with the whole British secret agent idea. That's the draw. So
until we jump all the way back to America for whatever reasons.
I guess you're right. That is kind of an odd move. How did you feel about Firth's storyline? Did you think it worked? I mean, it was more dramatic, expanded the characters a little, maybe underused.
I think they snuck him in where it was appropriate, though I will say the way they introduced him was horrifying and made me hate the Statesman.
No, that was pretty terrible.
Why are you doing this? I won't spoil it for anyone who's actually going to watch it, but
yeah.
Let's just say the Statesmen do something that's borderline appalling.
No, it was a disturbing thing, and honestly, I thought they were going to be the villains of the picture for a little bit.
And honestly, it would have made sense if they did go that route. Like, okay.
Channing Tatum was not that likable for most of it.
No, he was a jerk for the majority of it.
Yeah.
Until they produced him to glorified comic relief.
There are worse things you could do with him.
Yeah. Leading to most generic plot twist of all time. But somebody is a traitor. Guess who it is?
Yeah, could it be somebody? Never mind. No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Yeah, but no.
I mean, I think there's more to tell in the Kingsman universe. I don't think we need more cameos. I know they were trying to do that with the original, and they did mention, like, hey, we filmed a couple scenes of XYZ person showing up. I know that Mark Hamill was in the original, but we did not need Elton John. I'm sorry.
You didn't like his whole shtick? I know some people were laughing in the theater when I saw it.
I mean, it's one of those, like, if someone pitched this to me at a bar, I'd probably find it funny, but it's more than likely that it would have been because I had had a couple beers in me beforehand. Oh, hey, we've got Elton John hostage forced to play his classic hits.
Maybe better as a skit than a plot point.
Yeah, like if this was like a 10-minute Kingsman short film, maybe, but for the most part, I don't think we need more. Hey, here's the celebrity we can afford, so here he is.
I would have preferred Ozzy myself, but that would have been a little more believable. But maybe that's the joke. Elton John's kind of the badass in disguise. But all right, man, we've got a good 15 here.
Okay.
I think we'll wrap it up with the movie I think that you're probably most eager to talk about, and I've waited to talk about it because I knew Justin was going to be on here.
All right.
All right. You saw this twice.
I have seen this twice.
Blade Runner 2049. Yes, I saw it. I think opening weekend, and I would like to hear your thoughts because I have mixed feelings about the movie.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people are raving it, but you might remember I'm not like a huge lover of the original Blade Runner anyway. Right. But I know you're a hardcore Blade Runner fan, so take some time. Tell me a little bit about your relationship to the original movie, expectations going in, and then what you actually thought of this new one.
All right, so I guess the best way to handle this is how far back do we want to go? Do we want to go like very, very first experience with this, or
get deep, man? You're the guest. Tell me, Blade Runner and Justin. Go ahead.
So I saw Blade Runner when I was arguably way too young to actually watch it.
Okay.
But my father was trying to get me away from the Matrix. So I said, hey, do you want to watch something just as cerebral? And decided on Blade Runner because he was also, for the most part, thinking about that and wanted to have some good conversation. So he showed me the director's cut. The theatrical at the time was not, shall we say, as easy to access as it is now. Mm-hmm. And I watched it. I was kind of bored, but I was very intrigued by some of the themes. I liked the way it was shot. It was one of those things that I couldn't really say I liked it when I originally watched it, but it held my attention and it made me think.
Okay.
And one of the things that I found really frustrating about it, but also frustrating in a positive way, was days, weeks, months after watching it, I could not stop thinking about this movie. I couldn't stop thinking about what does it mean to be human, these themes, these aspects of how to be more human than human. This idea of, okay, we've only got 4 years. What do we do with that time span? And the age-old final line of, it's a shame she couldn't have lived longer, but then again, who does? Which kind of became my unofficial mantra for a couple of years. But
it's a cool mantra. But almost is the best. Those echoes, man.
Yeah. And then it sort of became my, what I like to call, sick movie. So whenever I was under the weather, whenever I couldn't really do anything besides lay in bed, I'd put on Blade Runner and watch it while I was trying to recover.
All right, man. Well, I mean, I guess as a movie for when you're sick, it's not really going to stress you out too much.
No, I suppose not. But then came the final cut, and I was like, okay, so I've seen the director's cut, and I'm falling in love with it, and I've really weighed in on all these different theories. How does the final cut work out? And I think the final cut really delivers on what Ridley Scott originally promised. He wanted to sort of split the difference between the cerebral nature of the director's cut, mm-hmm. and also making it more action, which I think he definitely fit the bill. He didn't compromise the tone. He still kept it alive, and I think he really split the difference between the director's cut and really getting full creative control.
Okay.
And I think by most accounts, most consider the final cut to be the best version. I do respect the director's cut. I haven't watched the theatrical or the work print, but I think the final cut is the one that's easily the one to keep watching.
Yeah.
How does 2049 stand up?
Tell me.
So there's an exchange. I'm going to say probably about 2/3 of the way into the movie, mm-hmm. where Ryan Gosling's character Kay or Joe. Sorry.
It was about me. Believe me.
Yes.
When we were seeing the theater, the ladies I saw with kept making that joke every time his name was mentioned. It's you, Joe.
Yes, it must be you. No.
Yeah, I was the replicant the whole time.
And of course, Deckard.
He's in this movie?
Yes, he is in this movie. The trailers don't lie.
No, they don't. It's true.
No. And I mean, even the director said, like, hey, don't expect Deckard until probably the hour and 30-minute mark. You actually play that pretty much to the wire.
Yeah.
But pretty much there's an exchange where Ryan Gosling's character says to Deckard, things were a lot simpler then. And Deckard fires back with, then why are you complicating it? And that's sort of where I stand with Blade Runner 2049. It's a movie that is very different from the original Blade Runner. And yet you can see how much it expands on the mythos of the Blade Runner universe, as well as also complementing it and also working as a standalone movie. Like, you don't have to watch the original Blade Runner to be able to keep up with what's going on. Do I still recommend it because it will reward you for your efforts in actually watching and interpreting the original film? Yes.
Probably.
But do you have to watch it before 2049? No. So how does the new one stack up? Mm-hmm. If this was anyone besides director Denis Villeneuve stepping into the foray to do this, for those who are unfamiliar, we're looking at the guy who did Arrival, Prisoners, and favorite of Joe and myself, Enemy. This is the guy for the job, and if anyone was up to the task, it's him. And honestly, for the most part, he fulfills what he was trying to do. One thing I really noticed straight out the gate is the first Blade Runner movie plays out much more like a cerebral action thriller. Blade Runner 2049 plays out more like a mystery. And it's a surprisingly compelling mystery, but there's so much going on, there's so much to take in, that I think the scenery this time actually plays as much a role in how to interpret it as it does in terms of trying to keep up with the actual story. It's easy to get lost in just how much detail has gone into this movie, and if you're going to go see this, please, IMAX is the way to go. It's worth shelling out for, I assure you.
Okay.
But yeah, just great sound, great soundtrack, and it's actually one of the few times Hans Brommer actually pays off. But no, I think Ryan Gosling does a really good job making it his own. He doesn't try to be a Deckard knockoff.
No.
And I think for the most part, the universe feels much more rich, much more expansive, and much more open. It's not, and it definitely doesn't feel like it's detracting from anything. It's not trying to contradict anything from the original movie, even though it's sort of closing a lot of the debates that the first movie introduced, like, is Deckard a replicant? Are any of the replicants actually human? What does this all mean? Etc. Etc. Now the replicants have a regular lifelong lifespan, and it's actually a lot more richer. It's a lot more existential. It's a lot more open. One of the things I'm actually really impressed with is just the sheer magnitude of the performances he got out of just about everyone in the main cast in just a few moments. Like Dave Bautista, I'm floored. Like, this is a guy who started out as just simply a wrestler and gives an incredible performance in less than 5 minutes of the start of the movie.
He did a great job.
He did an incredible job. The marketing short films, some I liked, some I didn't. The anime was not crazy about.
Didn't catch it.
It's okay. It explains a little bit about what happened between Blade Runner and the new movie, and I respect that it exists. I'm glad they got the Cowboy Bebop guys to work on it, but for the most part, I think it was sort of overkill. But I think the visuals are incredible. The performances are solid. I think there's at least 2 people that should probably be up for Best Supporting Actor or Actress, I should say, especially Ana de Armas as Ryan Gosling's virtual girlfriend, who pretty much steals just about every scene she's in. But one of the things that's a little bit frustrating is the running time is long, and a little bit daunting on the first go-round. This is much like the original. There's a lot to take in, and even after 2 viewings, I probably feel like I need a third. Just because I'm still taking in, okay, what has all happened? What has happened between when we last saw these guys and what's going on now in 2049? Mm-hmm. I have kind of mixed feelings about the air quote villain. Yes, he is a villain, but the motives aren't exactly clear a lot of the time. Like, what exactly is said character actually trying to accomplish? Sort of splitting the difference between what does it mean to be human and replicant, without giving too much.
One and the same.
Yeah. Can they be the same? Are they the same? And I think said actor does a really good job, but I think sometimes it's not very clear what the actual intent is. And That may be a factor of the set pieces are sort of overshadowing that, or just the character's underwritten. I'm not sure. Much like with the first movie, I kind of was left like, okay, I'm not sure how to feel about this, but I kind of enjoyed it.
Okay.
The second time around, I was getting a lot more of what the actual storyline was and was a lot more on board. Has quite possibly some of the best editing I've seen in about a 3-minute exchange that just completely blew my mind. But I think the Blade Runner universe is very much alive and well. I think this was a very worthy installment to the franchise, and I know a lot of people were disappointed by the box office take, but I don't think Blade Runner is supposed to be a huge blockbuster franchise. I don't think it's supposed to be something that everyone should like. I think it's one of those movies that is sort of one of those things that you find amongst people with mutual interests, and you sort of share those theories, those ideas, and you sort of you kind of feel more open about it. You feel more intrigued by the universe in terms of that camaraderie, instead of, oh yeah, I saw Blade Runner last week with my friends and we had a grand old time. and that's great if that's the kind of movie. But I don't think Blade Runner is ever supposed to be that movie.
No, I think
the first one or the second one. But honestly, I thought it was a worthy installment. I think it gets better upon repeat viewings, and I'm very excited to see what's going to happen if I do actually go around for a third time.
Oh man, it's still out, right?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. You know, it did do a little bit disappointing with the first, in comparison with the first one, but as we know, that's kind of sort of the history of Blade Runner, is that initial box office isn't that kind. No, you're right. I think Blade Runner is not exactly an easily digestible movie for everybody.
No.
You kind of have to go in willing to say, okay, this is a think piece, got to get absorbed in the atmosphere. And I definitely agree. Like, I think it actually tries to stick pretty close to the original Blade Runner in terms of how it feels.
Absolutely.
I definitely felt like it was the same universe. Like, from the initial scene, you hear the music come on, the ambient electronic stuff. You see the visuals, very cyberpunk, obviously.
Definitely.
I think big holograms, obviously would influence anime decades later.
Certainly.
Without a doubt. This definitely felt, okay, this Blade Runner. And I have to say, I agree, man. I think Ryan Gosling did a good job. I mean, he's a really good actor. I think I want to say he's a little underrated. I don't know if people really appreciate him as much as they probably should. What do you think?
I think it's mostly because he's very choosy with his projects, and for every role that he has that's like complete, that's knocked right out of the park, we get another that's kind of overrated, like Gangster Squad.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, like one of my favorite performances from him is Lars and the Rail Girl, which is an indie that nobody talks about.
I saw that not too long ago.
I think a very underrated performance from him, and that's why I feel like he is in his own way kind of underrated. You could argue probably not, just because most people know him as the pretty boy from The Notebook, but
he's gotten past that.
He has.
No, I think he did a good job. I thought his character was really interesting. The idea of the Blade Runner as a replicant, trying to track down the mystery to figure out what happened with Deckard, and you have the original company being absorbed by a new villain that's trying to continue the legacy, but take it a different direction. No, you're right. The mystery angle works well. I think that the visuals, the sound design, the editing, it's all really good. It's a good-looking, good movie. I can't say that I was really that bored. I wonder if all of it necessarily needed to be there, because I remember it's really capturing much of the same vibe as the original Blade Runner.
Definitely.
But, I mean, I watched the final cut again before seeing this one. That was like 2 hours.
It was.
And it was a decent length. It still felt kind of long at points, and this one's adding another hour onto that. I'm thinking, do we really need, can we cut out 5 scenes of just slow panning over each soundscape? I think you could have had a bunch of them in there and still achieve the same effect.
Or minimize them, but I feel like to get that sort of cerebral, dreamlike angle, some of those scenes need to be prolonged. Some of those needed to fulfill what was exactly going on.
Oh, definitely.
And establish that similar tone.
Oh, I agree that definitely you need to have some of them there, a lot of them there. But I think you might have been able to cut a little bit of it out. Maybe there'll be another edit to this one. Who knows?
According to the director, no. But
really?
Yeah, he's made it abundantly clear, if there's another cut of this movie made, it is not my vision.
Did you think the mystery was that well handled?
For the most part, yes. I think the first time around I kind of had mixed feelings, just because there was a lot going on. Sometimes the score was sort of overshadowing the dialogue exchange. Sometimes the scenery itself was sort of playing a role in that as well. But I think the second viewing definitely helped with that, and I think the mystery came into play a lot more effectively. You start to see how the rhyme and reason to why things played out the way they did, and for the most part, getting to where we ultimately ended up.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll wrap it up with just a couple questions that I'll try to pose to you that were my biggest issues with the movie.
Okay, go on.
I really think that Blade Runner, it's cerebral, but it manages to do it with the kind of the style over substance. Like the stories themselves, relatively simple.
Yes.
And I think that's true for both movies.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really liked the Joe character.
Yeah.
I would even say I found him more interesting than Deckard. Honestly, I liked the angle. I liked his evolution. I really liked his story. I thought it was very intriguing. I was invested. By the time the film ends, spoiler free, of course, could you see it possible to get the impression that his character really just existed to get another story from point A to point B, and then his could be almost invalidated?
I think that was kind of the point.
You think so?
Yeah. Like struggling to find meaning where believing in the purpose of which there is none. Okay. And sort of ultimately realizing that by the end you not really having any. Nihilistic, unfortunately. But yeah. I think that was definitely the overall arc of his character.
Okay. I mean, I could see it looking at it the way. Maybe it depends for some people, some audiences, that's maybe too bleak. But no,
welcome to Blade Runner, folks.
Yeah, I guess maybe that would be hard to absorb for some people. I think in that case, maybe that could have been working in some of the editing to focus more on the Deckard and his storyline, because unfortunately, because so much time is devoted to this interesting character piece, the main plot is kind of shoved to the side. There's a lot of things going on in the background that are mentioned, but it could be leading into another movie, replicants, more heavily involved, obviously. Yeah. So I don't know how well that was all handled in terms of the balance there.
I mean, there's a B story that they mentioned is sort of going on, possibly an uprising, but by the end of it, you're not really sure if it's actually going to go through. What's exactly the next step? Yeah. They sort of resolve it with, okay, X character got where X character was supposed to end up. And I thought that was a nice way to end it, so we could at least reach our conclusions. Mm-hmm. Because for the most part, Ryan Gosling's character does reach the resolution that he's supposed to reach. Mm-hmm. Because the plot twist I thought was really well handled. Okay, but I think for the most part, it did what it was supposed to do. It wasn't supposed to be as uplifting. It was bittersweet, I would say. Like
kind of like the original. I guess
one got what they wanted, the other one not quite so much.
Yeah, and that's the way it is. If it's echoing life, that's true. Yeah. And my final issue is a little more minor, but I think it's a pretty strong one. You mentioned it before. I really liked the villain a lot. I thought he really had some captivating scenes, all two of them. And I think the motivation is pretty clear, actually. I mean, they keep it general and philosophize and over dramatic, but it's God complex.
It's definitely God complex, but how he's trying to execute God complex isn't entirely understandable.
Once again, relating to how it works with the plot, maybe could have been handled a little better. Another scene or two with him.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have reduced him to like 20 minutes of screen time. I will give you that.
That was, I think, kind of a big fault, because main antagonist of film barely a factor.
Henchman shows up more than central villain.
That's a problem, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, that could have been handled a little bit better. I definitely would not be opposed to watching it again when I have another 3 hours to spare.
That's one of the bigger issues. Yeah,
interesting film. Loved aspects of it. Don't know if I could say that I really loved it as a whole, but interesting. I think, despite its flaws. But I'm glad you liked it. Do you think it's a worthy successor?
Worthy successor by what you mean, like better than the original,
or at least up to snuff?
I would say close. I mean, it's hard to say because Blade Runner, the original, took a long time to become one of my favorite movies of all time. Mm-hmm. So 2049, I'd say maybe like 5 years down the line, after a couple viewings. Right now, it's definitely an A. Oh, it's just a matter of A+. I don't know. So wow. Third viewing, maybe an A+. Hard to say. Jury's still out, but all right. I think it's very good for what it is. I think it's worthy of being a part of the franchise. Definitely doesn't detract from anything.
I got you.
But definitely needs more time to simmer, I think.
All right. One final question.
Sure.
In terms, everything, obviously this is probably to some degree a goal from the studio. Mm-hmm. Everything has to be a franchise. I think pretty standalone story for his character, but some possible sequel baiting there. Do you think we'll get another movie? And if so, what do you think it'll be?
Do I think we'll get another movie? I guess the better question is, should we get another movie?
There you go.
To which I would say no.
Really?
I think for the most part, Blade Runner has told we have to. I don't think there should be any sort of finality with the Blade Runner universe. I think it just should end in some sort of thought-provoking way. Because I feel like if we got some sort of like really big definitive answer, it wouldn't be Blade Runner anymore. Which is kind of my issue with the anime prologue. It resolved way too much, and I mean it didn't do too much in the way of. I mean, it didn't do as much as you might think, but it definitely had a little bit more finality than Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
But I think we do need some sort of ambiguity, and I think now is a really nice point to stop. And it's sort of, this is a terrible comparison, and I apologize for this in advance, but I think it's sort of the whole Toy Story 3, Toy Story 4 thing. We've got a really, really nice wrap-up now. Do we want to chance it with another movie and roll the dice?
It's not a bad example. You're right. Some things should stop, when they said everything they think to say.
Yeah. And I mean, is there more to tell? Yes. Is there plenty of fan theories to debate that'll probably end up going on for decades? Oh, yes.
And that's the point, right?
And I think that's really where Blade Runner really shines. And I'm very curious to see how that'll stack up, and if it will have the same as powerful a cult following as the original did. Probably not as much, but I can see it resonating in much the same way. But no, I don't think it should continue. I think if anything, it should. If they wanted to do like a short film or like a short story or something to sort of expand on what was done, yes. But full on feature length movie, no. I think that ship has sailed.
All right. Well, I actually kind of agree with you, man. I think that this would be a good place to end it. I mean, even if we do get another movie, probably a long time coming. This one got a sequel after decades.
Yes.
So no one was rushing for it, and I think that's fine. But man, that was a good discussion. I'm glad you really liked it. That's cool. I'm definitely going to check it out again at some point. Yeah. But thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm going to wrap it up. We'll have Justin here at some point if I can ever get him on. He's a busy man.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say goodbye and say farewell, Justin.
All right. Take it easy, everybody.
All right. Stay, man.